And how perfect is it that we have baby noises, and we love the baby noises, so keep them coming. Keep them coming. So, for those of you who are parents, I wonder if any of you were as clueless and as inept as my wife and I were when we had our first child. More so, yeah. Your first child's kind of your practice child. And then the second one you get right. Which one of you is the first child? That explains a lot. That explains. So my wife and I met. We were both in graduate school back in Atlanta. My wife's originally from Alaska, so we had and as we were thinking about our life together, we were young and adventurous, and somehow, dumb luck or divine providence, we ended up in this tiny town in the middle of Idaho called New Meadows. I think a few of you have been through there before. It's a couple hours north of Boise. Beautiful country. And that's where our family went from 2 to 3, not counting the dogs, which we should. And so our daughter came into the world. My parents were back in Georgia. Her parents were in Portland, a little closer, her mom especially. And they came out for a little while, but all too quickly they went back because they had lives, and there was Rachel and I with this little baby girl, just clueless. No idea what we were doing and scared about everything. Everything. More than once, and we lived like in this valley, and to get to the hospital, you drive up this windy canyon road. And more than once, we were worried about the contents of her diaper. And I drove up like in the middle of the night in this windy canyon road, found a nurse, and I'm like, is this okay? And they're like, oh my gosh. New parents, right? I'm like, and they're like, it's fine. You're fine. Just go back and get some sleep. Just clueless. Our poor daughter had, she had a little bit of colic, like upset tummy. And there's these things called tummy drops. Does anyone remember them? It's like simethicone. It sounds horrible, Kathleen, but it just helps tummies feel better for grown-ups and kids. And we had no idea. So our poor daughter for weeks is like, oh, my stomach hurts, and we're just walking her and bouncing her. And finally, an experienced parent said, well, have you given her this? And we're like, what's that? And it worked wonders. We had no idea. And we didn't have, for a little bit, anyone around us to help us. And then there was this older couple from that area who adopted us. Not literally, there's no paperwork, but they stepped in and became like parents to Rachel and I and grandparents to my kids. And to this day, my kids consider them more of like their grandparents than our own biological parents because they've seen them more. And they're still family. We'll go see them later this summer. We see them almost every year. And I think about, and we talk a lot about, my wife and I, Rachel and I, just about how important Bill and Betty's presence was in our life because we were clueless. And in stepped these folks, and they had raised 4 kids, and they had grandkids, and they knew what they were doing. And there were moments where Rachel and I were both so sleep deprived, like we probably shouldn't have been driving because we were just a menace. And Bill or Betty would just come in and scoop up the baby and just be like, go take a nap. Go take a shower. Yeah, and then we'll be fine. We've raised babies. We're not going to do anything. And it just meant so much to be embraced and supported and taught and all of that. And this whole week, I've been really thinking about like our families and our family systems and our social systems, if I can say it, that how we live these days. There was one scholar who was looking at family structures and how we do things, especially in the United States. And they had this quote. They said, the way we live now is one of the most unusual arrangements in human history. And what they mean by that is for 99.9999% of human history, families lived nearby. And there were aunties and uncles and grandparents and grandbabies and all of this in this one big, beautiful, probably slightly dysfunctional mess. But also really lovely. And it's only recently that this phenomenon has spread. And this is true of like all cultures around the world, where most cultures, people stay together. Families are nearby one another. And then it's only in modern context, and it really began post-World War II, where jobs were elsewhere and jobs became in cities and kids would leave their families. And we were taught this script that when you're 18, you should be up and gone. And those of us with 18-year-olds at home, we kind of like that script maybe a little bit. Like, fledge, please. But for most of human history, and certainly the days that we hear about from the Bible, families tried to stay together. And in fact, what we have today with Ruth and Naomi is the story of two people who weren't family becoming family. And it's just beautiful. But I do think it's really important for us today on Mother's Day to really think about where we sit in terms of our connections with those older and younger than us. One of the things about becoming a pastor that I would never have anticipated was that I would spend a large part of my life in the United Methodist Church around people older than me. And if you had said that's what it was going to be like, I mean, I would have done it anyway, but I just didn't know. And now, having been a pastor for 20 some odd years, too many to really add up, it's one of the greatest blessings that I've ever encountered is to be around different generations. And I look at some of my friends, like one of them's a college professor and one of them does marketing and all of that stuff, but most of their lives are around people their own age. And I always feel like they're a little impoverished. Like I feel really lucky and blessed that in my life I have different generations. I know we have some younger folks in this church for whom this congregation, and that some of you have, well, let's just put it this way, you are our fully mature oak trees. And that the younger folks can come in and learn from you and be loved by you is a great blessing. But look at how we do things now. A lot of times our ages are segregated, right? We have, homes for our parents that sometimes we send them off to. Sometimes it's necessary. My mom is in one and my sister and I can't care for her. But often, other than a few employees, everyone she sees is her age all the time. And she was a teacher. She was raised around young people, and I think she desperately misses seeing young people. And we in churches, we have youth groups, which is good, but it's also kind of a funny thing because we kind of segregate and say, okay, kids, you go do this. And you don't interact much with all of this beauty. It's well-intentioned. We have these societal structures, but I wonder what we've lost. But I do think, and I see little hints that something is shifting, something really important. And it's something we catch a glimpse of in these two stories. Both of them were probably familiar to you. If not, I'll unpack them a little bit. We had the story of Mary and Elizabeth, right? And both are pregnant. Mary in particular is unmarried, carrying news that's huge. The angel had come to her, you're going to bear this son, his name will be Jesus, all of that good stuff. And it's too big for her to hold alone, but also probably terrifying. Just really, really frightening. I remember my sister got pregnant before she was married. And I remember her trying to tell my parents. And my sister is fearless. She is the bravest person I know, but I remember in that instant how scared she was. It's that same kind of fear that Mary had. Will I be judged? Will I be rejected? I'm young and this huge thing is happening, and what's going to happen? And notice that Mary doesn't go to a peer or a friend. She runs to Elizabeth, her elder. She travels. She goes to this person who's there waiting to receive her. And Elizabeth is full of her own miracle, and there's this little moment that is just gorgeous, that before a word is spoken between them, we're told that something in them leapt for joy. With John and Jesus and all of that. But that moment to me is just so profound and so simple at the same time. Like one of those things that's very holy but also really human. Simply where two people realize that they need each other and they love each other and they come together without judgment, just to celebrate each other's lives and to love on each other and support one another. It's so intense that the reaction is physical. It's not programmed. It's not a societal program. It's not a church program. It's simply two people showing up for one another. And it makes me wonder, for those who consider themselves younger here today, do you have an elder that you can go to? Or even middle age? One of the losses that I'm navigating right now, y'all know, many of you know that my father passed away about 1.5 years ago. And he was my person. He was my person that I went to when life got tough, for wisdom, for support. And at the same time, I also went to my mother, full of wisdom, and y'all know this, my mother developed a brain tumor. So her personality is very different now, and we're dealing with that. But very quickly, I went from having two people that were my elder support people to less. Blessedly, I still have Bill and Betty, my surrogate family, that I can call up and say, "Ooh, my daughter's 20. What do I do? This is hard." Do you have somebody you can go to that plays that role? Honest question. Do you? Sophia, do you have somebody in that role? Yeah. 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 Now you've got a bunch of grandparents. That's right. What about those of you, and I'm getting there quickly, who are on the slightly older side of, no judgments either, we're just there. Do you have somebody, or are you that person for somebody that they can come to? I think these are important questions. Have you watched Sharon and Vishal and Fred and Sherry, by the way? These are two different congregation couples. Sharon and Vishal are younger. Their baby is due in a month. Fred and Sherry are on the older side, retired and all of that. Have you watched them together? They have formed a family. Sharon and Vishal's parents and family live in India. And they have created family together. And that's what this is all about. Ponder those questions. Do you have somebody? If not, I probably have some volunteers. And then Kathleen shared with us this other just beautiful, beautiful story, Ruth and Naomi. Naomi tries to release Ruth from obligation. Ruth was her daughter-in-law. And said, you don't need to follow me. I'm an old lady. I have nothing. I have no money, no value, no future. Just go, find a new husband, go and have a future. And Ruth, in this just gorgeous moment of devotion, refuses. And she says, and this is covenant language, and maybe you heard this, where you go, I will go. And that is to me, one of the most powerful, beautiful moments in our sacred story. That we have these two people, different generations, different families, different bloodlines, even though Ruth was her daughter-in-law. No obligation anymore. And then to have this moment of just absolute devotion. I will not let you go alone. I will not let you become homeless. I will go with you. And they go forward, and a new future is created. We are, for this church, and if you're new here, what you are experiencing is a new church, even if it doesn't look like it. The building's older, some of us have gray hair. But this is the merger of two congregations, and we've been together for just a hair over a year. So in some ways, this congregation is an infant. You are babies. We are babies together. And we are in a place where we are blessed with opportunity. Because we get to shape what this is and what it looks like and how it exists in our community and what we do with all of this big building and what we build. And not many churches get the opportunity to do that. It's a sacred moment. And I wondered a lot about who we are becoming. And one of the things that I think we're going to work on, depends on if people want to, if you're passionate about it, but one of the ideas put forward is that we look at this entire building as a community center, which it already kind of operates like, but really learning how to do that. And my mind, as I think about that and dream about that as a possible future, is who we might get to meet. Are there generations that are disconnected? Are there groups in our community that don't know each other? And I find that really exciting. That's just a little aside. But I think one of the important pieces of today and these texts is that it invites us to look with fresh eyes at how we live and to notice who is right here next to us, sitting next to us, and trust that as we get to know each other, as we show up for each other, especially across difference, that's where the Spirit of God really shows up and builds bridges that help fulfill our lives and fill things with meaning and keep this world from crumbling to pieces. And it's not just generation to generation, but it's also across political divides and all of these things. When we can show up for one another and really see one another, that's what saves us. That's where Christ's Spirit steps in and helps us to connect and build something. And so for us here today, what does this mean? And I've thought a lot about this, but I don't have words for it, which is a hard place to be if you're giving a sermon. You're right. And now let's sing Amazing Grace. No, I have words down here, but they're not what I want to say. I think what I want to say is that in this moment, as mundane as it may sound, and not churchy as it may sound, but I think it is deeply holy and deeply sacred, as I think about my life and the life of my children, had not Bill and Betty and others like him, and there's been people in every church that we've served who have embraced us, not just as pastor and pastor's wife and pastor's kids, but as real people, and have supported us. And we've been lucky enough to get to this age where we can turn around and start to do that for other people. That the greatest gift, I mean, Bill and Betty, they got tons of money. They have lakeside property and all of that. They could have once upon a time, if they wanted to, probably still could say, here's a check for $100,000. But if we give this to you, then we're not going to be in a relationship anymore. And there's no choice there, right? The money would be nothing. We would reject it without a thought. Not because we light our cigars with $100 bills, but because they have made such an incredible difference in our life. They've raised our children as their own. They've supported us through heartbreak and life changes. And when I look at you as a congregation, you beautiful people of God, I think about you and whether or not you have that in your life. Or if you're lonely and feel unsupported and unseen, can you be that person for somebody? Or even if you're one of our 90-year-old people, do you need an elder to look up to? Believe it or not, we can find one for you. Whether we're talking about family or friends or a congregation, we have been given each other as a blessing. And I wish I had the words to do this. And my deepest prayer is that we can embrace that blessing. Parents to your kids, kids to your parents, recognizing that life goes so fast and it's so precious, and to let go of all of our worries about, is this cool? Am I going to be vulnerable? To claim one another as family and love on one another and forgive one another and really, really just swim and bathe and shower in this great gift of each other. And so, while that might be a very poor ending to this sermon, that is my deepest prayer for you and for me and for that adorable baby there in the back, who I'm having a really hard time not scooping her up and just walking her around. I think I'm not alone in that. So, join me in prayer, and then we are going to sing a song that I think you all might know, but it is not in the hymnal. So, let's pray. Gracious Lord, personally, I pray that in the middle of this, which is not my best sermon, may your words, your Spirit, come through. And may each of us find the blessing of one another, recognizing that of all your great gifts, that the gift of each other, along with the gift of Christ, might be the two most important that we can ever receive. And so open us to each other in love, we pray. Amen. Okay, so for